Hello, this is Vox Evening News with me, Kesha. First, let's start with a look at our headlines. South Africa's ruling party kicks off its policy conference. Day 3 of the Afreximbank AGM in Rwanda sees a number of key deals signed. And a long-awaited fraud trial has started in Benin. In Johannesburg, South Africa, the governing African National Congress Party is holding a policy conference for the next 6 days. Divisions of infighting threaten to reduce the party meeting to a public squabble about the future leadership of the party. The group is said to be divided between those who support President Jacob Zuma and those who prefer his deputy, Cyril Ramaphosa. Topics to be discussed by the delegates include land reform, inclusive economic growth, health and education with the aim of dealing with unemployment, poverty and social inequality. On Monday, discussions concluded with a decision that Parliament will vote on a no-confidence motion in President Jacob Zuma on August the 3rd. The United Nations Security Council on Thursday approved a phased drawdown of peacekeepers in Sudan's Darfur region that could almost halve the number of troops over the next year if conditions are conducive and the government is cooperative. UN Chief Antonio Guterres and the African Union had recommended the move to the 15-member Security Council in a report last month. The resolution could also cut police by more than a quarter. Conflict in Darfur began in 2003 when mainly non-Arab tribes took up arms against Sudan's Arab-led government. A joint AU-UN peacekeeping operation has been on the ground for the past decade. Up to 300,000 people have been killed and millions displaced during the conflict. The former president of Burkina Faso, Michel Kafondo, the fourth UN envoy to mediate an end to the deep and sometimes violent political crisis in Burundi, has been well received. On Thursday, Burundi's government said that it has faith in him, but it also warned against bias in favor of opposition groups, an accusation that has also been leveled against his predecessors.
La mission que j'ai acceptée, certainement, est difficile.
The mission I've accepted is undoubtedly difficult. I will focus all my energy and will towards that goal. I think that with everything you do, you must do it in agreement and harmony with the country you want to serve. In this case, that is Burundi.
Je ne dis pas que moi j'ai une baguette magique.
I won't say I have a magic wand, but I will say I am a diplomat, I am a peacekeeper, and I am called to make my contribution. I do it on behalf of Africa.
Mali is hosting a Heads of State summit in with Niger, Chad, Burkina Faso and Mauritania, known as the G5 Sahel, over the weekend, and an agreement between the bloc could see it deploy thousands of troops to the Sahel region, which has been described as a breeding ground for militants and traffickers. On Sunday, French President Emmanuel Macron will be in Mali, showing his support for the new West African military force that will hopefully be the basis for an exit strategy for French troops who have been in the region since 2013. In a reverse action, the UN Security Council unanimously approved a resolution calling on the more than 15,000-strong UN peacekeeping force in Mali to help the country's military re-establish security across the territory. The resolution, which was adopted on Thursday night, extends the mandate for the UN force until June 30th next year. The extension comes as the charity Doctors Without Borders announces a withdrawal of its aid workers in the Kidal region following a spate of attacks. Bombers killed 2 people and wounded 11 others at a UN-managed camp in Niger housing thousands of people who have fled Boko Haram violence in the first suicide attack in the region in a year. The UN Refugee Agency said on Friday 2 women entered the camp some 30 miles north of the border with Nigeria and joined a group of young people before detonating suicide belts just before midnight on Wednesday. 2 German tourists have been stabbed in an artisan market in a Tunisian coastal town this morning. The victims, a mother and her 27-year-old daughter, were in Tunisia on holiday. The attacker, believed to be a man in his late 30s, was arrested by tourism police at the market where the incident occurred. The incident does not appear to be terror-related. A joint statement from the Ministry of Interior and Tourism in Tunis described the assailant as having mental health problems. The investigation is still ongoing. The Democratic Republic of Congo did not hold its annual Independence Military Parade on Friday because of security concerns. The festivities mark the end of Belgian colonial rule in 1960 and have been used to show off the Central African country's latest arms acquisitions. But rising militia violence, a growing humanitarian crisis and a spate of prison breaks have worked to further unsettle the country in recent months. A parade was also cancelled in 2012 and 2013 during the country's war with M23, a rebellion group, before holding successfully for the past 3 years. Police have confirmed that unknown attackers killed an officer during a raid on a jail in the capital, Kinshasa, on Thursday. The raid is said to have taken place just hours after the government issued its statement announcing that it had cancelled Independence Day military parade. It's not clear if any prisoners escaped. One woman is reported to have been shot in the leg in the incident. Staying in the DRC, a seasonal tradition by women from a village in the south of the country, has become a tourist attraction. At the start of each dry season, the women paint scenes of daily life on the walls of their homes. The ritual has helped put the region on the map and has even been an unlikely source of foreign income for some of the households. Let's take a look in this report.
There's no electricity in the village of Mekwacha in southern Democratic Republic of Congo, yet its inhabitants produce paintings that sell for thousands of dollars. For generations during dry season, women have decorated their homes with pictures of daily life. When the head of a French cultural institute came across their art, he invited them to Paris, where they sold 8 of their pictures on canvas for $60,000.
Because of the painting, we were able to go to Paris and exhibit our works of art. I believe that in the future it could pay well. It will lead to other projects.
Thanks to their success, they've installed a water pump in the village. They also receive an income from a local tour operator, which brings curious tourists to admire their art. However, amid the country's ongoing political instability and unrest, tourists are few and far between.
Congo is vast. If there's a war in the north, that's 4,000 kilometers away. But in the south, there's no war. People go to Israel where there are attacks, bombs and everything. And they go there as tourists. There are thousands who go there.
Nearby, artisans make ornaments from the local mineral malachite. The arrival of Chinese entrepreneurs to the region boosted sales. But with few other visitors, the industry is struggling. Some locals hope they can turn the nation's disadvantages into selling points.
Someone arriving in a very beautiful 4x4, very hard-wearing, and you can try it out on a bad road. It's great getting stuck in the mud. Getting unstuck, it's already a kind of tourism.
In Mekwacha, construction is underway for painted huts for tourists to stay. As tourism stalls elsewhere, they hope to buck the trend by offering visitors an experience of village life and local colour.
Now, after explaining how trade can be used as a catalyst to industrialise Africa, the participants, entrepreneurs and experts attending the Afreximbank annual general meeting went on to uncover the best ways to boost regional integration through intra-Africa trade. The third day of this week's conference saw the bank put their words into action, signing a number of MOUs and partnerships with intra-Africa trade champions. Rwanda, through the Rwandan Development Bank, signed a facility deal worth $110 million. Nigerian-based company Heirs Holdings will continue to expand in Africa thanks to a $100 million deal, and a final MOU worth $1 billion was signed this morning with Aliko Dangote, the founder of Dangote Group. Other events happened in Kigali besides the Afreximbank AGM. Young entrepreneurs had the opportunity to meet with the businessman Tony Elumelu, who supports business ecosystems across the continent.
3 years is early, in my viewpoint, for us to say that we've achieved our ambition or intent. But 3 years is also adequate enough for us to assess and know that we're on the right course. You listen to the conversation we just had in the room now, and you can tell that if things continue as they have started, in 10 years' time, or 10 years from when we started, in 7 years' time, we would have succeeded in making a little impact on the continent. What to us is important is not what we achieve even in 10 years. It's what happens beyond that. It's a kind of movement that we're unleashing, the kind of spirit, entrepreneurship spirit we're unleashing, the kind of positive mindset we're inculcating in our young Africans, the kind of networking opportunities that we're providing these young Africans, the type of training that we're providing these young Africans. These will live with them forever. And that is the kind of transformation we want to bring to the continent. So, I'm impressed with the journey so far. The program, beyond empowering young Africans, is actually helping to unite, and bring Africa together. So, I would say that the narrative is changing. It has to change from within before even the world will see us the way we want the world to see us. So, it's a long journey, but I'm encouraged that we might have laid the right foundation.
Nigeria's state-owned oil company said on Thursday that it had agreed to a joint venture to cover more than $700 million cost of developing new oil fields in the southern Niger Delta region. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, known as NNPC, said it had a tripartite agreement with a local energy firm, First Exploration and Petroleum Development Company, and international oil services company, Schlumberger, to develop 2 oil fields. Nigeria, which is a member of OPEC, has been looking to increase its crude oil reserves to 40 billion barrels by 2020. Under the agreement, Schlumberger will provide the $700 million investment in developing the fields, which would add 193 million barrels of crude to current reserves. Kenya's government has announced it will delay its plans to start exporting crude oil and the production until the government passes an amendment law that includes setting out how revenues will be shared between national and county government and local communities. The law is expected to be in place by late September, when a new Senate and National Assembly convene after the August election. Small-scale production was expected to start in June. A trial opened in Benin on Thursday in an alleged Ponzi scheme described as the biggest financial scandal in the country's history. 20 people are facing charges at the court in the country's economic capital, Cotonou, for conspiracy, defrauding the public, and practicing illegal banking. The case, which was first emerged in 2010, when the firm Investment Consultancy and Computing Services, known as ICC Services, and others were accused of defrauding people of their life savings. According to a report by the IMF, nearly 150,000 people, possibly more, lost their money between 2006 and 2010 on the false promise of lucrative rewards. The total amount estimated to have been defrauded is more than $262 million. In 2010, Benin's government launched a compensation scheme for victims, but tens of thousands of people are still waiting to be paid back.
ICC services have killed the country. The state didn't know how to deal with the case, and I want justice to free people because they will be imprisoned for nothing. What will happen after? Nothing. Because I'm sure that no victim will be paid. No one. The state has taken cars, houses, everything has been sold. Today, out of 100 victims, no one will be able to show proof they have deposited money. So even if we ask them to pay now, who will receive it?
Malawi has launched Africa's first aid air corridor to test the use of drones in humanitarian missions in partnership with the UN Children's Agency, UNICEF. The Kasungu Aerodrome in central Malawi will be used as a site to test for aerial scouting in crisis situations, delivering supplies and using drones to boost internet connectivity. Universities and other partners will also have access to the site while the project runs until next year. Last year, Rwanda launched a commercial drone delivery service delivering medical supplies in partnership with an American company. UNICEF says it's working globally with a number of governments and private sector partners to explore how drones can be used in humanitarian and development missions.
We're very happy today. This was the launch of the drone testing corridor for humanitarian use between the government of Malawi and UNICEF. And this is a corridor that has 5,000 square kilometers. So basically it's a dedicated space where for 1 year private sector, research institutions, non-for-profit can really test what drones can do for good.
These drones will be very, very helpful in reaching out to people that are affected by those disasters and then bringing us feedback in terms of what the government would want to do to help those people or those areas affected by such disasters.
We're heading into a short break, but still to come on this evening's programme. We have a report about how free clinics are saving America's uninsured. South African artist Johnny Clegg sets out on his farewell tour. And Dakar Fashion Week draws to a close.